Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Monday, February the 13th, 2012. I want to start off on a rather macabre note. I want to talk about death. Well, this week there was a rather interesting story. Apparently a senior source in the Catholic Church had predicted that the Pope, Benedict XVI, was going to die in the next 12 months. Now, that sounds rather bizarre. I mean, surely only God knows the future, and priests, of all people, should not be predicting when the head of the Catholic Church was going to die. Now, he wasn't using anything weird or wonderful to make his predictions. There were stories flying around, apparently, that there was some plot to assassinate the Pope, and this is what was being referred to. Still, it is an important point for astrologers. Traditionally, at least until the 19th century, astrologers would prove their worth by showing off their case books, in which they would have chart after chart of people who they had successfully predicted the death of. I suppose historically death wasn't such a big issue. I mean, if we had a certainty that there was a heaven, that there was a God, death was no big deal. Disease and death were all around us until the 19th century. You know, death was something to be expected, and certainly nothing to be afraid of. We were sure we were going to go to heaven. So if you went to an astrologer in the 17th century and an astrologer told you that you were going to be dead in a couple of weeks, well, fair enough. You get your affairs in order and it makes things easier for everybody. But now in the 21st century, death is not expected. It's not something that we are supposed to plan for. Of course, it's obvious we're all going to die. Some of us sooner than others. As an astrologer, I'm familiar with some of the techniques that are used to predict people's deaths, and in some charts it really is possible to predict when someone is going to die, but not in all charts. And how does one know beforehand? Well, I would certainly never predict the death of a client. It would not be very helpful, even if the client had asked me to predict their death. You know, is it going to be psychologically useful to know that you're about to die? I don't think it is. Also, there is a great danger of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I could tell someone they were going to die, and it might start some psychological chain reaction which could actually lead to my prophecy apparently coming true. But it might be the prophecy itself that kills someone. Now, the death that a lot of us are focusing on at the moment is the death of Whitney Houston. Now, I did actually look at her horoscope, and I was asking myself a question: would it have been possible to predict that she was going to die when she did beforehand? Now, it's all very well to look at a horoscope with hindsight and say, oh yeah, well, I can see this was going to happen and that was going to happen. Yes, it would have been possible and so forth. But in Whitney Houston's chart, yes, I can see some things that might have indicated she was in trouble, but I don't think anything that said for sure that she was going to die. Nonetheless, what I really focused on was a full moon 4 days before she died, on February the 7th, 2012. Now, she died when she was exactly 48 and a half. She was born on August the 9th, 1963, and she died on, was that yesterday, Sunday? Or was it something like February the 11th or whatever? So very, very close to her exact half birthday, exactly halfway between her 48th and her 49th birthday. And at that halfway period, on just before February the 7th, there was this full moon. Now, this full moon hit a particular configuration in her horoscope. She had an opposition aspect between the Sun and Saturn, and this full moon picked it up and really exaggerated the problems that she had. I mean, one thinks of her in terms of an easy display of talent, but I don't think it was easy at all. The real person was clearly struggling, and the Sun-Saturn opposition was linked up with Neptune, which is a planet of drugs. So in this case, the full moon was certainly making things very difficult for her, and it was really bringing things to a head. So she was certainly vulnerable. However, if she had put herself in a protective environment around the time of this full moon, I suspect she'd still be alive. So in her case, I don't think it was fated. She possibly had a choice, and maybe she took the wrong choice and she was in the wrong place, and that's why she died. Now, as far as the week ahead, well, the big event is Mercury moving into Pisces, and this happens on Monday or Tuesday, depending on your time zone. Now, Mercury is not very happy in Pisces. In the jargon, Mercury is in its detriment in Pisces. So communications are going to be difficult. It's going to be very easy to be misunderstood. So we have to be very, very careful what we say. We're going to be also oversensitive to the external environment. There's going to be a lot of vibes and intuitions flying around, and intuition is good, but vibes can be wrong, and we could get ourselves into a real mess. So over the coming week, it's very important that we don't jump to conclusions. And with Mercury moving to this conjunction with Neptune, we have to be careful of deception. So we mustn't believe anything that anyone tells us. There are some bad people out there, and they'll take any opportunity to pull the wool over our eyes. So the general message for the next week is be careful. Anyway, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in a week's time. Bye.